in the spirit of National Compliment Day, I want to give a compliment to Ciryl Gane. You know, a lot of people have been very mean to Ciryl Gane over the last 48 hours. Ciryl Gane, who has only been competing in mixed martial arts for 2.5 years, who is 30 years young, who's fighting in the main event against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, one of the most lethal strikers in the sport, pitched a shutout, a dominant 5-rounds-to-none performance, cementing his spot as one of the top heavyweights in the world. And what does he get for all of this? He gets insults, he gets criticism, he gets kicked while he's supposed to be up, but I guess he's down. I think that all the criticism that Ciryl Gane, the Frenchman, Bon Gamin himself, received on Saturday night up until this point is unfair. In all honesty, I think people were very mean to Ciryl. What do you think?
What did you say? What's his nickname?
Bon Gamin.
Damn. Oh, him, that's good. That's all I can think about. That's good.
It was a good performance.
Wait,
listen.
Oh my God. Your ability to try to act as if Ciryl Gane fought a great fight. Daggum, that's good on this day. I'm telling you, man. Oh my goodness.
How did he not? Jairzinho Rozenstruik, one previous loss in his MMA career, got knocked out by Francis. He pitched a shutout. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with doing what you need to do to win a fight? Why is it incumbent on the guy who was winning to make it an exciting fight?
Sometimes, now I've been on the receiving end of this, right? Maybe not to this extent, but it's not only about you winning the fight, but at times you got to put on a performance, especially in those big spots. You know, even though it may be unfair, Ciryl is getting compared to Francis. And when Francis does what he does to Jairzinho, and Ciryl, although pitching a shutout and fought beautifully, the jab was fantastic. The space management was fantastic. The wrestling that he showed at times was fantastic, right? He showed a full skill set. But when you have a guy like Francis who finishes fights in the ways that he does, people will get compared to him, especially when you're the next guy. You're the next thing. You almost are obligated to fight at a certain way, and he didn't do that. Now, I remember when I fought Frank Mir way back in the day. It was a bit of a snooze fest. We hugged for 15 minutes. And I was on top of the world. I won my first UFC fight, co-main event, Big Fox. Saw Dana on Tuesday at UFC Tonight, and he said, "Oh, this dude's hosting this show right now." And they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, good stuff." He goes, somebody said, "Well, he fought Saturday, fought good, and he wasn't too beat up." He goes, "I wouldn't call that a fight." He goes, "I wouldn't even call that a fight," right? So Dana's very open and honest with his assessment of the performance, and I think he held back on Ciryl. He could have said more, but you know, when you're supposed to be the guy, when you're the next guy, and you're put in these big spots, you have to take advantage of them.
Okay. Did we forget that not that long ago? I mean, it was almost around the same time. I think he actually debuted the following month, if my memory serves me correct. Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, who's all the rage now coming off the Curtis Blades fight, once produced one of the most boring fights in the history of the UFC heavyweight division, maybe even the history of the sport, at least the promotion. And it's okay. Like, to me,
you can have a fight like that.
Yes.
You just can't have him all the time.
But he hasn't had them all the time.
No, he hasn't. But I'm saying he just knocked out JDS, beat Jairzinho. But again, it's what happens right now, right? We're not 6 months removed from him fighting Jairzinho on Saturday. This happens Saturday. And look, man, you could do much worse than winning a decision that people think was boring. You know what I mean? You could do much, much worse, right? You could lose. You can get slept. You can get, there's so many bad ways to come out of a fight. So if you're Ciryl, you're saying, hey, it might not have been a barn burner, but I won. I'm getting a bump in the rankings, and I'm continuing to move towards my ultimate goal of being the UFC champion. Here's what's the scary thing. What's the scary thing, though, Ariel. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Here's the thing. The way Ciryl fought on Saturday, it might have been boring, but that fighting style, his ability to maintain space and distance, engage when he has to, is a problem for everybody.
Right.
And I think that's what kind of is scary, because he could do that to just about anybody.
So up until this point with Ciryl, again, 2.5 years in the sport, 5-fight winning streak in the UFC at this point, longest active streak in the heavyweight division. Up until this point, we've seen him on the ground, surprised a lot of people with his submissions, even almost pulled off a standing guillotine in that fight. We've seen his power, and now we've seen that he can fight a composed 25-minute fight. The story coming out of Saturday, in my opinion, was we've got a legit new prospect or even player at heavyweight. And also, the story should be, why didn't Jairzinho show up? The criticism shouldn't be about Ciryl. Jairzinho was down 3 rounds to none, 4 rounds to none, and never even pushed the pace. I mean, you would think if you just watched the 5th round, you would think that Jairzinho was up. To me, the criticism shouldn't be on the guy who was up 3, 4 rounds to none. It should be on the guy who needs a finish to actually steal this one, a guy who's further along in his career than Ciryl. Why aren't we talking and criticizing Jairzinho more than Ciryl? That's the part that I don't understand.
I think when you look at Jairzinho and you look at how bad he got knocked out by Francis, first time he had ever lost, it's a sobering thought to think that it could happen again, right? And when you're in there with a Ciryl Gane that has done the things that he's done, it does put you on notice. Now, Jairzinho got hit with a big jab in the very first round. It was a nasty jab that snapped his head back, and that seemed to almost slow him down to the point that he wouldn't do anything more because of the risk of running into another punch like that. It really felt like that one jab hurt him so bad that he was like, man, I don't want to run the risk of getting hurt and knocked out by this dude. So,
But he is coming off a win. It's not like he's coming off that knockout loss.
Yes, but still, let me tell you something, Ariel. When you get knocked out like that, it never leaves the memory. You don't forget that. You don't forget. I will never forget the night that I got knocked out by Jones. It just doesn't. It does not happen. You constantly are reminded of that when you step back in there. The good memories last, but the bad memories haunt you, and they don't leave you because you don't want it to happen again.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.